What is an overhyped fragrance?
I've actually used that term in my videos a lot over the past year or so. I have a whole series. If you missed that series, it's called Overhyped, where I talk about 5 fragrances that are talked about to death. So much so that they might overshadow other really wonderful fragrances that might be peripheral to them. Now, it's a very strong word. It's a word that a lot of people disagree with. A lot of people find it to be severe and inflammatory.
I like to stir the pot.
So I just want you to know that by saying it, I'm not trying to discredit any fragrance. Now, in this context, in this video, these fragrances, yes, they're overhyped. They're talked about so much, and yes, they're great fragrances.
But in this case,
it's worth it. I think the hype is actually worth it. So let's talk about these 5 fragrances. I have a surprise for you, so make sure you stay tuned. You're not going to know exactly when it'll come, but just stay tuned. You'll know. It'll be worth it. All right, first fragrance up here that I think is worth the hype has got to be the One Eau de Parfum from Dolce Gabbana. I've said this several times. This, I think, is a timeless classic. I think this fragrance DNA will be around for a while. Even though the flankers, from what I hear, have not really lived up to the original. I know there's the whole Middle Eastern collection, which I have not really tried much of. I think I've tried Mysterious Night, and it was okay. But none of them are quite like this. In terms of the scent profile, they are decidedly different. And this is just a well-composed designer fragrance. I have a lot of respect for this fragrance. Olivier Polge did a phenomenal job with this DNA. I think this is worth the hype. This is a sweet, warm, ambery tobacco. A little bit of ginger and grapefruit freshness in there. Ultimately, it smells warm and sexy. Those are 2 words I would use to describe this fragrance. That's Dolce Gabbana, the One Eau de Parfum. Up next, probably one of the most talked about fragrances from this house, from the house of Amouage Reflection Man. It's a phenomenal fragrance, but there's so many other great scents to talk about from this house. We keep bringing it up. Again, I know why, I get it. But in this case, I think it's worth the hype. I do think it's wonderful. I'm not going to be recommending the crap out of it because there's newer stuff out there to smell. This was recommended to death when I first got in the community. I think it's time to bring in new crops of fragrances. But this is a wonderful scent. I will never get tired of it. It is a little bit polarizing. Not everyone loves it because it's a little bit on the powdery floral side of things. But it is very clean and sophisticated. Those are 2 words I would use to describe Reflection Man. A little bit sweet, definitely powdery and fresh and clean with this kind of creaminess in there from sandalwood. Overall, just smells like something you would wear in a light colored suit during the daytime to a formal event. Smells simply beautiful. It is Amouage Reflection Man. This next fragrance
smells wonderful.
One of the most popular from the house, yet again here, this is coming from Tom Ford. This is a fragrance that smells confident and wealthy. That sounds kind of weird. How can a fragrance smell wealthy? Well, when you put it on, and especially when you dress it up, you smell wealthy. I only have a decant of this because this is a very hard fragrance to find discounted right now. I'm not sure why. There's a mass shortage of tobacco vanille. I have this decant from Decant X. I talk about these guys all the time. They are my #1 favorite place to sample fragrances, to get decants of great niche and designer fragrances. They're constantly expanding their catalog and they have some of the best prices out there. They have a very easy way of finding what you're looking for with a great database and how it's broken down. And you can save a little bit of money with the code STAYFRESH17, save 17% off your entire purchase. I know a lot of you guys have used Decant X. If you have enjoyed their services, and I know a lot of you have because you've told me, sound off in the comments, let me know what you think of Decant X so people can know, edify them, because they're a great company. They're still pretty new. They're still trying to break into this space. And I think they have a great service, especially if you live here in the United States. So check out Decant X, gonna have them linked down below again with that coupon code. But we're talking about Tobacco Vanille. I think this is worth the hype. This is a phenomenal fragrance. It is sweet and warm and spicy and earthy and dry. There's just something about it that, again, it smells like you're rich. It smells like you are well off. You smell very confident. I've wanted to get this for a long time. I've actually told several people I've wanted to get it, and for my birthday, a close friend of mine actually tried to get it for me without my knowing, and let me show you what happened. This is not the surprise I was talking about, by the way, just so you know. So we have here what seems to be a bottle of tobacco vanille. I'm gonna show you the B-roll so you'll see up close how this is not what it seems. They presented this to me and I started to ask them where it came from, and they started to tell me the process it took for them to get it, and the details started to become fishy when I found out it was coming from overseas in Latvia, when I found out that they spent about $70 on it. And I knew by putting those facts together with just looking at the details on the box and the bottle that this was indeed a fake. So just so you know, these things are out here. This is not new information, but be very careful about buying stuff from overseas. And I hate to say it, but especially if you're buying from anywhere in or around Russia. For some reason, they seem to be shelling out a lot of fakes from that region. I don't know why, but what does this smell like? It smells kind of like tobacco vanille inside of a burning rubber barrel. Not a pleasant scent. I only smelled it simply from the cap because it's leaking everywhere. It was already leaking. I have not sprayed it. I will not spray it. I'm definitely not putting it on my skin. I really am grateful that they tried to get this for me, but in the end, it just turned out to be kind of funny. Next one up, this one is hard to get, which does add to the hype, I think, but the scent is phenomenal. Some people consider it the best designer fragrance ever created. That's a strong statement. I don't know if I feel that way about it. I think it's a wonderful scent though, and I think it's very enigmatic and chic. There's something mysterious about it, but there's something so just put together about this scent. Dior Homme Parfum, hard to get, like I said. They do have a new version, which I hear is just as good as the old one, but even then, that's hard to get if you're in North America. I've seen it on the Dior site for Europe, but I'm not sure if they ship to the United States. Nonetheless, if you can get your hands on it, if you haven't tried it yet, get a sample. Do not blind buy a bottle of this, especially not the original version, because you're gonna find that for stupid prices. But this is a beautiful fragrance that really stands out in the designer market. It does come from a lineage of fragrances starting with the original Dior Homme, which set the tone for what a man's fragrance can be. Powdery, waxy iris, almost lipsticky in a way, with a sweetness that's warm, with some dark brash leather in there. Very interesting, very head-turning, very provocative. This is a showstopper of a fragrance. I think people get a little bit too crazy about trying to get it because it's hard to find. So just know that your life will go on if you don't ever smell it. If you can get your hands on a sample easily, by all means, go for it. But don't sweat it. It's good, but it's not worth your mortgage kind of good. Dior Homme Parfum. And finally, we have from Parfum de Marly, a fragrance that I also wanted to get back. I had it at one time, I sold it, I got it back as a birthday gift from Grace. She was very generous to gift this to me, and I'm so happy to have it back in my collection. I think it is a little bit overhyped, hence why it's on this list, but I do think that it's worth the hype. There's other great fragrances we can talk about in this genre, but let's talk about Harrod. Spicy, sweet, warm, tobacco, kind of cinnamon, vanilla. Smells like the winter time, smells like the holiday season. This is both cozy and elegant. It's something you want to cuddle up next to, but it's also something that if you dress this up in dark colors in the cold weather, you just smell very commanding, but comforting all at the same time. Now, as I said, there's others in this genre we can consider. So if you thought
that I was about to let all these fragrances get off the hook without suggesting alternatives like we do in the Overhyped series, because yes, this is an overhyped fragrances video in disguise,
then you were wrong. Let's jump right into it. What will I suggest for Harrod? Honestly, I couldn't decide between these two. They're both wonderful. In recommending an alternative, I wanted to try to keep the fragrance within the same price range as the Overhyped scent, and also something that of course is going to be in the same kind of family of scent, but it's not supposed to smell just like it. So keep that in mind. First one up here is Bois 1920 Dolce Di Giorno. This is also very cozy and elegant. This is a sweet, warm, spicy, and woody fragrance. Plum and cinnamon with cedar wood and a little bit of this interesting woody quality from Cypriol, which is almost like an aged wooden kind of feel to it. It is very spicy, it's very woody, it's warm, it's sweet. Definitely some vanilla in here as well. As it dries, it gets creamy and smooth. Very unique stuff, very beautiful stuff. Something very easy to get close to. And another one is coming from Roger Parfums. I would recommend this one in regards to the price of Harrod. It's going to be comparable. This is not comparable. This is one I would definitely get a decant of if you can. Gonna have a link down below to that for sure. This is very, very warm, spicy. So it also has a cozy feeling to it, but also very elegant. You have to like bay leaf though. Lots of bay leaf in here, lots of cinnamon in here. It is technically a chypre, which makes it a little bit mossy and warm and dry. But there's kind of a bit of a sweetness in here that's, again, cozy. Not a blind buy. Do not blind buy this. Get you a decant if you're interested. But both of these I would definitely recommend as alternatives, so to speak, to Harrod. What would I use instead of Dior Homme Parfum? Something that is enigmatic and chic. Something that has a mysterious quality, but still very elegant. We're talking about Serge Lutens Chergui. This is kind of in this realm. It doesn't smell anything like this, but it is also dark and kind of earthy, sweet, powdery. You also have iris in here, making it quite powdery, but also lots of tobacco and honey. And you have a hay accord that's very interesting. It kind of leans a little bit unisex, feminine, similar to this. And I think that quality, especially when worn correctly and dressed well, makes it kind of mysterious. I think that's what makes it enigmatic, hence why I'm using that word, but extremely chic. Beautiful fragrance if you haven't tried it yet. Nothing new from the house. A lot of people like this one, but for a good reason. Check it out. Now, after you get a chance to try Tobacco Vanille, if you're looking for something that is going to be cheaper in terms of a full bottle, I would recommend Frank Boclet Tobacco. This is one of the only fragrances on this list that actually smells very, very close to Tobacco Vanille. I'm pretty sure they were inspired by it. It's a little bit warmer and rounder and a little bit less loud than Tobacco Vanille, but still has great presence on the skin. But they are generally the same scent profile. Kind of Tobacco Vanille on a budget, but also still quite niche in terms of scent profile. And the pricing is a little cheaper. You're still going to pay probably over $100 for it. That is Frank Boclet Tobacco. Now, Reflection Man I described as clean and sophisticated, and I would recommend White Hinoki from Amouage. This is a very unique scent profile. Again, doesn't smell like Reflection Man, but it does have the same kind of clean feel, but in a different way. This is dry woods, but it's made almost smooth and cottony in a way. You also have a bit of, I think, whiskey or some kind of liquor in there that adds an interesting boozy quality. A very unique fragrance. Not for everyone, but it will still carry that cleanliness that you like out of Reflection Man and a high sophistication that's very unique. So check out White Hinoki if you have not already. No one's really talking about this one. Very good stuff. And finally, replacing Dolce Gabbana The One, which again, fantastic scent, which I described as warm and sexy. I would recommend Azar Pour Homme Intense. You can actually find this quite a bit cheaper than the Dolce & Gabbana. This is going to be a little bit more mature, perhaps, than this one, which I think still makes it sexy. This is dry, warm, sweet cinnamon with brandy on top of the Azar Pour Homme backbone, which is this fresh aromatic fougere vibe. You have those two elements blending together. That makes for a pretty sexy fragrance when worn dressed up. I would say this is maybe a little bit more versatile, something I would dress up or down. I would mainly dress this up, but if you want a bit of a classier feel, I would probably go with this. But both are great, but if you're looking for something different off the beaten path and not in every YouTube video, then check out Azar Pour Homme Intense. Do you think these are worth the hype? Do you think they're not hyped enough? All opinions are welcome. Let's talk about it. Nonetheless, thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.